Hello and welcome to another swoon-worthy conversation. Today, it is my absolute delight to be speaking to a translator. This is a service that I'm really excited about. And Isabella Nanni is a romance-loving literary translator. She's also a book marketing strategist who brings love stories to life for Italian readers. So this is going to be fun. Like, what's better? Love and Italian, the two together is perfect. She has over 25 years of experience in publishing, and she blends translation artistry with sharp promotional know-how to help authors grow their audience. Isabella is also the creator of Romance to Romance Days, which is a vibrant online fair that connects romance authors and readers across Italy. Isabella, welcome. I'm delighted to be talking to you today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, one thing that I learned about you while we were getting to know each other is that you have a pretty funny story about your husband's very unromantic marriage proposal.
That has probably shaped my future as a romance translator. We had been dating for about 6 years when his mother passed away, and he was discussing selling the house where he and his brother had lived in for all their teenage life. We were driving, going somewhere, and he just blurted out on the road, you could buy my brother's half of the house and we could get married. And I was, are you offering me a house or are you offering me your hand? Because I was speechless. I can't remember saying yes. I must have agreed at some point because we've been married for 28 years now. But it was the last thing I imagined after years of fairy tales and romances. I think that I became a romance translator to compensate because it was the last thing I could ever imagine.
That is, I have never heard such an unromantic approach. That's fun. I'm sorry and congratulations on 28 years. That's fantastic.
Must have done something right
Exactly.
down the road.
Funny. Well, I guess that shows that you have possibly a sense of humor, definitely patience, communication. You probably carry, obviously, you carry the load for communications in the marriage.
Yeah.
So you have a really fascinating background with a degree in foreign languages. You also have an MBA and over 25 years in publishing and international marketing. That is an incredible compilation of skills and work that you've done. I want to know if there was an aha moment that made you decide to focus on translating romance novels with this blend of skills that you have.
I do not think there was a aha moment, as you may call it. I gradually increased my time and energy into translations and especially romance translations because the results were good, both in terms of the quality of the translation and the reach that I managed to get to book bloggers and book creators, helping my clients get the word out that the book was available online, mostly on Amazon, because Amazon makes about 80% of ebook sales in Italy, as opposed to Germany, where it makes about 50%. So going wide in Germany makes more sense than in Italy, at least in the beginning.
Yeah.
And yeah, given the results, I devoted more and more energy to it, but I did not have a flashing light telling me that I had to do that. I enjoyed reading romances in my youth, then I abandoned it. And when I went back to it, I noticed an increased quality
Mhm.
in the original text. I think romance authors have improved dramatically over the last years. They, especially indie authors, devote great energy and efforts and money to editing and polishing their books. Now the quality is much higher than it used to be in my youth. I find it an honor to be able to convert it into Italian, to break the language barrier, let them be appreciated by Italian readers.
I'm curious for native speaking Italian romance authors versus translations from other languages, probably predominantly English. Do you have any sense what the ratio is?
I know for a fact, because they are public data that I usually share during the webinars where I am a guest speaker at online conferences, that traditional published translations have dropped
Mm.
significantly. They are now less than half what they used to be about 10 years ago. The predominant way to get to Italian readers for international authors is to self-publish their translations. And self-publishing has increased in Italy too, during the pandemic especially, and the quality is also very good. I could not say the ratio between international authors and Italian authors, but it's quite a match.
That's really encouraging for those of us who are writing in English then. And I had no idea that Kindle and Amazon was the primary platform for romance readers in Italy to get their books. That is
Absolutely.
very encouraging.
Absolutely. I know readers who read more than the capacity of their Kindle Unlimited subscription, so they need to buy extra on top
Oh,
of the
wow.
Kindle Unlimited subscription. Kudos to them. I'm a slow reader because when I read a romance and I like it, I tend to think of how I would translate certain passages. So it makes the reading process very slow for me. So you do not have to count me in when you try and understand what the normal reading capacity for an Italian reader is. But I know people who read a lot, a lot.
Yeah,
Few books a week is standard for a romance reader.
that's fantastic. Wow. Can you share an example of a particularly challenging romantic phrase or a scene, for instance, that you've had to translate and the perfect Italian word or phrase that you found for that challenging translation?
The most challenging translations I had to manage were probably Jill Barnett's romances because she likes to use puns
Ah,
very frequently. And polysemy, of course, always brings issues because sometimes the pun overlaps in both languages, and sometimes you have to recreate it. And one instance, especially, was when I had to recreate a scene where a character is hard of hearing and another character tells this person to do something and they understand something else. And I really had to recreate that scene completely because otherwise the humor would have been lost.
right,
And those are the instances where AI always fails
right.
because the literal translation, if you take that passage and you have it translated by ChatGPT or Google Translate, the literal translation is correct. The problem is that it's wrong in the context.
Exactly.
So that's where the human creativity comes in.
For whatever reason, the expression "a dog's breakfast" just popped into my head as you were speaking, which I think is relevant to what happens if you use AI for translating things like puns. But also, can you imagine, a character saying, "Well, that experience was a dog's breakfast." Now my dog is barking. I don't know if you can hear that, and how that wouldn't make any sense at all. What are some common mistakes you see when authors try to appeal to the Italian market without professional guidance? Like, are there certain, for instance, tropes or character types that don't resonate as well in the Italian market?
The main problem now is very bad quality of AI translated text that is flooding Amazon. I understand that the same is happening towards English. So I guess that Amazon.com is flooded with AI translated text from Italian and German and Spanish because everybody thinks they're so clever to use AI without human assistance, professional human assistance. We had a case of a very tiny publisher who somehow managed to convince an American author who had already been traditionally published and properly translated by a bigger publisher to hand over the translation rights, and they used AI. A blogger spotted it, and she shamed this publisher on Instagram. It was a shitstorm, and it went viral, and they were ultimately forced to take down the book.
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah, and it's happening a lot, and people do not realize that a bad use of AI will harm their reputation for a long time because the internet doesn't forget, and that's an issue. Another issue is that I very rarely see authors do their due diligence when they seek translators, and the only thing that I get asked most of the time is what are my rates, not what are my credentials. So I do present my credentials after to explain my rates, but that's not the first question that should come to anybody's mind when approaching a freelancer.
Yeah.
So,
I noticed with the testimonials that you have for authors you've translated, like top of mind right now, Crystal Caswell, like you have got significant authors who are using your services, which I think for me, and I know a number of other authors, when we meet, we have a mastermind and they're saying, I want to translate to this language. Who have you used and who have you heard not to use? So that, the whisper network can be very valuable to us. And then looking for those testimonials of authors who are succeeding is really important. And you clearly have that.
yeah, it's the market is becoming more crowded, but I think there is still quality products. And by quality products, I am being general. So it's not just translations, it's also original texts, properly edited, as opposed to AI generated books, which are becoming more and more frequent. And I think there is hope for quality text and for human connection.
Yeah.
So when you try to build your personal brand in your language, you should look for a partner for international markets because readers are more aware of the bad quality of AI generated translations and they look for the credits of the translators. So if they see that the book was translated by someone they trust, they will put more faith in the translation and in you as an author. So when you put so much effort into building your personal brand in your country, you should not waste that effort with AI translations for international markets.
Yeah.
Because it will backfire.
I am one of these people who, once I listen to an audiobook by a narrator who really speaks to me, whose voice I really love, I will go and look for other books by authors I've never heard of, and even in subgenres I've never listened to or read, just so that I can experience that narrator again. And I wonder if there's going to be a move towards, well, I love the way Isabella translated this. She gets the puns, she gets the turns of phrase. If people will start looking for translators and find new authors that way as well.
I have bloggers who tell me that they not auto buy because I offer the ARC copies for free, but they auto accept the ARC copies of my translations because they know they're not wasting their time. And when I built my Amazon page, I was surprised to discover that I have followers on Amazon. I have about 500 followers on Amazon.
That's amazing.
And that's, that's a relief for my clients, because I carry the responsibility of giving them a good name in my country.
So we've kind of been skirting around the whole marketing, which is something I think is probably quite unique to your services, is that you don't just translate the book, you also offer marketing services in Italy and like full book promotion services. So why? I mean, I think I know the answer to this because I know, I can publish my books in English on Amazon.com and AU and UK and CA. And unless I'm promoting, those books fall down very quickly in the ranks and don't get found. So, can you just talk a little bit about the promotional strategy that you do to help an author who's unknown in the Italian market find readers?
First of all, I ask the author if they are willing to offer ARC copies to book bloggers, book creators on Instagram and TikTok. Most of them are more than willing to do. So I usually have a bunch of creators who auto accept the offer. When I need to promote a book that is somehow other books that I usually promote, I haven't promoted many romanticists, I will look for new collaborations. So I will go on Instagram and search by keyword and try and find people who will like that genre, that sub-genre in the romance landscape. And that's the first step. And another thing that I built off, even though not necessarily just for my clients, is the Romance Days event, which is an online event that I launched last year. This year we will have the second edition, and it's free to join for the readers, unlike live events where tickets are becoming more and more expensive, and they can order signed paperbacks with, swag bags and so on from home. And the only thing that we ask is that they subscribe to our newsletter. We now count about 3,000 subscribers, which is not bad.
It's very good.
And that's also a way how I reach out to readers and present the new releases, both for my clients and for the authors who joined.
I had never heard of it. So everything takes place in Italian, I assume?
It's just for romances in Italian.
Yeah.
So either originally written in Italian or translated to Italian. And we have a rule that AI generated translations are not accepted.
Right.
So,
Now,
and the translator must be credited.
if I were to have you translate one of my novels and I wanted to participate in Romance to Romance Days,
You would, as my client, you would get free access.
but how would I be able to participate since all I can say is ciao bella?
The basic is that you need to send me a video where you present your offer, you present yourself. That's the basic condition, because readers want to see you, they want to get to know the author. And you present your offering, so your signed paperback or signed book plate, because international authors face very expensive shipping costs and custom tariffs and so on. And so the easiest way is to offer a signed book plate against proof of purchase. So if the reader sends you a screenshot of the order of your paperback from Amazon or other stores, you can send the signed book plate. And if you want cards with,
Swag and stuff. Yeah.
exactly. I've seen many people and shooting videos after receiving the swag envelope.
Mm-hmm.
And it was beautiful because they were happy. It was an occasion to virtually meet someone whose books they had loved and get something unique.
Do you translate the videos then?
I translate the captions
The captions, yeah.
because I think that it's better to hear the
Mm-hmm.
author's real voice.
Yeah.
So international authors will get the professionally translated captions, and then the order will usually be managed through a Google form where the reader can upload the screenshot of
Amazing.
the paperback order.
Wow. That's amazing. I had never heard of it, but then in, I don't have an Italian translation and I'm not there. So I'm really intrigued by this. I love how creative you are. I would never launch a book without a robust ARC campaign in English, and yet it did not occur to me. And I have friends who I know are translating in other languages, and they're not running art campaigns in those foreign languages. So that's kind of a light bulb that should have gone off without you saying it, but I'm so glad that you did because it hadn't occurred to me. Yeah.
Both for the original text and for the translations. So
Yes.
when you approach a market, you should understand where you had better distribute your book. Germany, for example, you'd better go wide. Italy, start with an Amazon exclusive because Amazon is so strong that it will pay off better if you at least start with the 3 months Kindle Unlimited exclusive. And once you have, settled your distribution, you must promote your book. And promoting is not just Amazon ads, which are becoming more and more expensive. It's not just Meta ads or even TikTok ads that do not work as well as Meta ads work. I have
Mhm.
tested it personally, and it's also word of mouth. People talking about your book, people giving social proof of
The,
what they think your book resonates with them.
the,
And as a translator, I mean, every author, of course, has excerpts that they love better than others and that they use in their own country to promote their book. But as a translator who also reads Italian romance, I sometimes prefer to use other excerpts because I think that they will be liked by our audience.
yeah, that's so important. I mean, even culturally, between subgenres, of course, different excerpts are going to resonate. And I suspect, a different excerpt is going to resonate differently in even like in the UK versus the United States,
I think so.
Australia versus Canada.
And often the covers are different
Yeah.
between the US and the UK. And I don't think it's just a question of copyright. It's also a question of taste, of trends. And most authors I have worked with simply translated the title. In at least one case, which I will not name, I think we could have had an even better success with a different cover.
Hmm.
But the author was attached to the traditional trend of the original cover. So I didn't say anything, but I had quite a few bloggers say, if it hadn't been for you with that cover, I might have not have read that book. I loved it. And I think with a different cover, it would have made a splash. The series sold well, but it could have been even better.
Yeah. Okay, well, I feel like I could talk to you all afternoon, but we have to wrap up. So I would love to know what would be your one single most important piece of advice that you would give to a romance author who's considering translating their work into Italian for the first time.
Approach any market, not just Italy, any international market with the same energy and effort that you would approach your own market. And look for trustworthy partners. That means when you look for a translator, ask for credentials, ask for testimonials, check what the readers said of their translations in the reviews.
Yes,
Now, that's always something that you need to take with a pinch of salt because haters are everywhere.
of course.
But if you see reviews that constantly mention how bad the translation was and give examples,
Mm,
because it's easy to say, oh, the translation was horrible. But if they give examples, that's a red flag.
yeah.
So you should check that too.
Thank you. Now, you have got a really robust website with some incredible blog posts. You are also on the Swoon-worthy Services site, and you've offered discount for
Yeah.
anybody who pops over to Swoon-worthy Services and has a look at your offerings there. So do that. And then you've also got a quiz. Do you want to talk about the quiz and the things that you offer if people fill in the...
If you fill out my form and mention who you are and leave me your email, you will get a download link to download a list of useful resources and a checklist how to vet a translator that will be useful for any language.
Okay, so
Whatever language, whatever country you'd like to have your books translated into, I think you will find it useful. And
that
it's
is
free. You just
and
need to fill out my form.
wonderful, wonderful. Isabella, it has been such a delight to talk to you and to have met you. And I am now very, I'm going to go and figure out how I can make which of my books might work best in Italian. I'm so curious. And I wonder actually, before we wrap, is that a service that you could also support with? Like say, I have 5 novels and 3 novellas, and which do you think would do best in the Italian market to start?
Now, that's a good question that I think has no easy answer for this reason. I can tell you what subgenres in the romance landscape do better according to Amazon's ranking. However, if you only translate to market, if we'd like to call it that, you may miss opportunities. One of my clients is Tess Thompson, and she had this historical romance series that started out with the Colorado setting in 1910. That's very unusual for historical romance. It's not Bridgerton, it's not Regency, and it was a sweet romance, so no spicy scenes. It was a real bet. I mean, if I had to, give advice to Tess based on the rankings, I'd have said it's very risky, which I said. I said, Tess, it's a risk, but if you have had so many good ratings in the USA, you could actually be successful in Italy too. And that happened. It's probably the most sold translation of mine. And it's been a long tail success. She has now over 2,600 reviews, which
Wow,
I think is a very good achievement in any language.
absolutely.
And I know American authors who do not have those numbers in their own language. And yet it was a series that, based on the market, should not have existed because it was not written for the market.
Yeah, I love that.
But somehow it appealed to readers and it was a very good success. So it probably filled a void.
Right. Well, thank you for that segue. And as much as I hate that you can't, I'm the person who just, when I talk to my therapist, for instance, I'm like, just tell me how long it's going to take. I want to know all the facts and give me the roadmap. I want that from you. But obviously, you are very smart, savvy, and experienced. And you're telling me that we just have to figure it out and take that gamble. And I guess start with a book that does well in its native language, right? Right.
For example, I do not think that a translation into English of an Italian book that references the terrorist battles in the 1970s would be successful. That's too much focused on our history. And
Yeah.
so the same could be true for an American book talking about something very specific to your history. But otherwise, if the theme is, if you can find topics in the book that are universal, I think that it can be a success in any country.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thank you. See you. Bye bye.